Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS Inform. Back in the studio to give us his legislative update is State Senator Mark Messmer. Senator, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, and great to be here in person.
Yeah, right. We've been doing Zoom for a while. Yeah. It's great to be back in person.
That's right.
Good to see you. Now, this week, let's kind of talk about some things that have happened, and then we'll wrap up with an important bill that was signed into law yesterday.
Yes.
But first of all, you wanted to talk about two bills that have to do with rioting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we passed 33 bills out of the Senate this week, and two of them were responses to the riots that happened last summer. And primarily, I mean, the only community that really had any damage, from the riots was in Annapolis. I mean, there was peaceful protests all over the state. We had peaceful protests, last late May, early June here. Mm-hmm. But in almost all situations, the protests were peaceful, the demonstrations were respectful, and there was no clashes. But in downtown Indianapolis, Friday and Saturday night, the May, late May, first weekend in June, I mean, the protests continued for about a week, but the damage really occurred on Friday and Saturday night of that last weekend in May. And they had 112 businesses that had on the ground level that had damage, that had arson, that had theft. Some of them were burned, and two people were killed in the uprising by between rioters, not from law enforcement, and two other people were shot. There was multiple assaults and attempted rapes, and pretty much about as bad as things could have turned out. I mean, out of those 112 downtown businesses, most of them, and even ones that weren't damaged, were boarded up for months, and really made downtown Indianapolis look like a third world country, and really drove between them. If the pandemic wasn't enough, then you had the riots downtown, and people that worked downtown were told, I mean, if they were coming to work prior to that, they were told, for weeks and months just to work from home or people living downtown moved out of downtown. People that work downtown quit coming to work, and it's really had a huge negative impact on the city. Dozens of businesses have closed permanently, not only from the pandemic, but then, throw the damage and the riots on top of it. And there was about $8 million worth of damage to the businesses downtown. So out of that, we had a couple of responses. One was Senate Bill 198, and it has a variety of things. It enhances some penalties for if you have rioting and it causes serious bodily injury, death, or significant property damage. It allows them to elevate. That rioting can be a misdemeanor or felony depending on, how bad it gets. But it raises the penalty enhancements for, if any of those issues occur during a riot. I mean, a protest is not illegal, but whenever they turn violent and damage and things occur, those are already criminal activities. It adds the potential to add conspiracy, even if you were there. Maybe you were a person on a two-way communication device, and you were orchestrating, where folks moved and where damage was inflicted. You could be pulled into a conspiracy crime, even if you weren't actually the one breaking the windows or looting the store. It allows the Attorney General to prosecute for rioting crimes if the prosecutor won't, or maybe if the prosecutor asks the Attorney General to intercede. If the local prosecutor, fails to take action on rioting crimes, the Attorney General has a couple of levels of felonies they can do that on already, and we're adding rioting to that. And then I added an amendment that allows a person to sue the city for lack of enforcement on rioting laws, or sending law enforcement in to protect people and property. So they could sue the city personally, for damage to their business. It allows either up to $700,000, per individual, or $5 million, in total. And in the case of the Indianapolis riots, some happened on Friday night, some happened on Saturday night. So in each of those situations, you could have up to $5 million worth of claims against the city. So, my thought of it was, because the police were told to stand down, and I think we added in that bill the ability for, the cities to to enforce curfews. I mean, I think the mayor called for curfews, but there was really no statutory authority for them to do that. But the police were just told to, stand back and get out of the way, and that led to $8 million in damage and a lot more long-term, loss to the city than just the damage from the immediate activity. And then Senate Bill 199, we have in law what's called the castle doctrine. Somebody tries to break into your home, somebody comes on your property, you can defend yourself, with a firearm. And currently, you might be a business owner that can have a firearm, but they weren't protected. Like if you aim a firearm at somebody off your property, that would automatically be a felony charge, for intimidation for doing that. But if they're coming after your property, you can point a weapon, to keep them away. You can't fire it unless you have deadly force being used against you. It would be a crime to use it, but you could use it to help deter traffic from your place of business. So those two bills passed out of the Senate and had pretty strong support on both of them, and they'll head over to the House. And I know Representative McNamara is going to be the sponsor for sure of Senate Bill 198, and she had some other bills, items in her writing bill that she'll amend, into Senate Bill 198. One of the issues I brought up, and it's a felony in many states to wear, like a full ski mask at a riot to try to conceal your identity. Now, and people say, well, what about a mask? Well, that wouldn't have met the definition of full identity, full facial identity coverage. So that would be just used to enhance penalties that occurred. I mean, the wearing of it alone wouldn't be a problem, but if you committed a crime, it'd be like going into a bank with your identity. I mean, if you're committing a crime and you're trying to hide your identity, and they figure out, or they catch you, figure out who you are, it would elevate the penalty. So it's a shame we have to deal with issues like that. Obviously, we've never had that type of violence in India or really anywhere in our state before, but definitely a serious issue.
And again, it has nothing to do with really protesting.
No,
it has to do with damage caused by rioting.
Right, correct. I mean, we've had protests downtown. Heck, every session there's somebody there at some point, protesting something. Happens all the time, and nobody's really worried about protesting. But rioting that spawns out of and the extreme violence. I was in a meeting downtown Indy on June 2nd, and after my meeting that afternoon, just walked downtown, and it was really a horrible sight to see. I mean, with the damage and the boarded up buildings and the painted graffiti on buildings, and so we don't want to have to look forward to experiencing anything like that again. Now,
these bills then will go to the House.
Yep, go to the House.
Considered, and then they'll probably come back again to the Senate.
I would imagine be some slight amendments to. At least I know Senate Bill 198 will have some tweaks to it.
Okay. Now, it's been a good week in that Senate Bill 1.
It was
was signed into law on Thursday.
Yep, Thursday at 12:11 p.m. So
12:11, okay.
That's the official time on the signature. So that was an exciting bill to be a part of. Really, a bill that started back in April. I mean, the nexus of it started from our first meetings with the governor, and talked about trying to give some civil liability protection to essential workers, hospital workers, people that were in essential businesses that had to try to keep some basics of the economy moving. He said, I don't think I've got statutory authority to do it. You guys are going to have to fix that, during the session. And I guess the federal government could have done it, nationwide, but there was just never any agreement at the federal level to do it. But we had good, strong bipartisan support in the House and Senate on Senate Bill 1. We did our final concurrence vote on Monday afternoon, and then tried to work with the governor's schedule and our legislative schedules to get a time where we could have a signing ceremony for the actual official signing of the bill. It's not unusual to have ceremonial signings in May and June, but this was the one that put the bill into effect, and was very honored to be a part of that, and the author of the bill, and worked with Jerry Torr on the House side to do some minor adjusting to it. But a great bill for everybody in Indiana. I mean, the businesses were the ones that asked for it early, but it covers churches, nonprofit groups, local government, K through 12 education, higher education, everybody will be covered from being sued, for somebody saying, I got COVID at WBDC. So, I mean, it just doesn't, unless you commit gross negligence or willful and wanton misconduct, which is a standard that's used throughout, the code on civil liability situations, you'll be very unlikely to be successfully sued for claiming someone got COVID-19 from you.
Well, congratulations on getting that bill passed.
Thank you.
Is it retroactive?
Yes, back to March 1st of 2020.
Okay. So even though it was signed Thursday, it's retroactive
Yep.
for anything.
Yeah, and we had to be careful to keep contract law out of that, because if you change a contract law retroactively, you can create constitutional problems. And there was a request to add things in that dealt with contract law, but we clearly made sure it excluded any contract law. It keeps employee protections in place. No OSHA rules could be impacted by it or violated. Workman's comp and unemployment issues are kept completely, clear and free from anything COVID-19 liability impact of Senate Bill 1. So,
and are we now at the halfway point? Does this week end at the halfway point?
Next Tuesday will be our halfway point.
Okay, next Tuesday will be a halfway point.
Yep.
So when will the budget start to come up? I mean, I know it's been worked on, but when will that actually come into?
It'll probably be up for final vote on Monday. So I think the amending would have been yesterday on the floor. Not sure what kind of items are in it. I mean, they really don't release it until almost, so if amending was on the floor was Thursday, it probably didn't come out of committee till Wednesday.
Okay.
So really not completely thoroughly up to date on what's in the budget at this point, but we'll get the budget in the second half, and I'm sure the House will have some priorities that they put. We'll have priorities that we'll put, and that'll be one of the bills that goes to conference committee and really won't be done until the last day of April when we're there.
Well, Senator, thank you once again for coming in and
You're
talking
welcome.
with us and keeping people up to date on what's happening in the legislation, in the Senate side especially, but occasionally with the House
Sure.
as well. And congratulations on Senate Bill 1.
Thank you.
Being signed into law yesterday.
Yes, very exciting.
Thank you very much. Our guest has been State Senator Mark Messmer, and you can contact him through email, through phone calls, even the old way of sending a postal letter will work as well. Thank you for being our guest. Thank you for watching 18 WJTS. We are local people watching local people.